Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Sean from Short and Sweet Adobe Training. In today's video, we're going to be looking at InDesign and how you can resize images in InDesign. In particular, we're going to be looking at picture frames. And with InDesign, all of your pictures sit inside of their own frame. So we're going to have a look at how you can resize the frame in which they sit inside of, as well as resizing the image itself that sits behind the frame. Because you can resize both, independent of one another, or you can resize them together. It's a little confusing when you first start using InDesign, this whole concept of two separate frames, but once you get the hang of it, before you know it, you'll be resizing frames without any issues whatsoever. So let's get started. Now, when we're working with images, it's always important to remember that there are two frames that you need to be aware of. There's the frame that the image is sitting inside of, and then there's the actual frame of the image itself. If we have a look at the image that I'm using here in this brochure, I will click on the frame with the selection tool to select it. And when I do that, you can see that I've ended up with a blue frame running around the outside, and you can see the little anchor points to denote that it's actually selected. Now, if I was to resize this frame, you'll notice when I do that, it actually crops out the image. It doesn't move the image along with the frame, and that's because the image is independent of the frame. We'll just go back a step there. If I wanted to edit the actual image, then what I need to do is, when I hover over the top of the image, I get this little content target. When I click on that, you can see I've ended up with a different frame now, a little brown frame running around the outside. So this frame denotes the edge of the actual photo, and you'll see if I click and drag that photo, I can see the edge there, that's where the photo finishes, and this is the edge of the blue frame, a window frame if you like, that the image is sitting behind. So I can move and drag this image around inside of that frame, independent of the blue frame that it's sitting inside of. So the first method that I'm going to use to resize this image, I'll just deselect the frame and click back on it to select it and drag it across, and I'm going to reposition this so that it's sitting in the lower left corner there next to the other photo. And then manually I'm going to come across, I'm going to grab that anchor point on the right hand side to change the width, and then grab the anchor point at the top in the middle there and drag that down so that it fits the exact height of the image to the left. Now, problem being, I'm left with a photo that's cropped not the way I'd like it to be, so I'm going to have to resize that photo. In order to do that, I can come across, click on the little content target there to bring up the brown frame of the photo, and then come across to the top right hand corner here, and then as I click and drag to resize this, I need to make sure I'm holding down the shift key. We always hold shift when we're resizing photos, because without shift you'll end up with a distorted image. If I release shift, you can see there I can end up with a distorted or skewed image. I want to make sure I'm holding shift so I don't do that. Okay, so I bring that image all the way down to the width of the blue frame that it's sitting inside of, and there you have it. It's sitting now in the exact size and the exact crop that I want. Now, if I go back a couple of steps, there is an easier and quicker way to resize, and that's by clicking and dragging the image back into place here, and then rather than doing it in two separate steps where I resize the blue frame and then the brown, if I come up to the top right corner here, I'm going to hold down the shift key and the command key and then just click and drag, and as I do that, you can see that it's resizing both of them together. So I'm able to do that by holding down shift and command. It's a little bit off there to the left, so I'll just budge that over slightly. And there you have it. I've resized the image and the frame that it sits inside of together. So hopefully that's been helpful for those of you new to InDesign and have struggled a little bit with resizing photos. Always remember that there are two frames you need to consider. There's the frame that the image sits inside of, the blue frame, and then the frame of the image itself. So it's always just good to be aware which frame you've actually got active, and you can tell by the color whether it's blue or brown. Thanks for tuning in, and looking forward to seeing you in the next InDesign tutorial.